Welcome, leaders and sidekicks, to the Superhero Success System. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been on a project or initiative that stalled out in the late stages? If you have, it's indicative that the process has not been serving your purposes. You see, I believe that projects do not fail at the end. I believe that projects fail in the very beginning. Let me explain this to you. Think of a project in terms of its life cycle: the initiate, the plan, the execute, the control, and the close phases. Now, the early stage questions that we ask and answer, those are the ones that really have impact in how successful your project's going to be. In fact, if you wait too long to make decisions, there's no decision to be made at all. So the more you can ask and answer early on, the more successful you're likely to be. To control that process, we use the concept of stage gates. I believe there should be a stage gate between initiation and planning so that you can make sure you understand what it is you're trying to deliver before you begin to create a model of how you're going to do that. Makes sense, right? And then on a like manner, I believe between planning and execution is the other big stage gate, because we want to have a plan in place. We want to have a reasonably safe, simple approach to delivering success before we engage our resources, start spending time and money, or setting expectations. So two key stage gates here, one between initiation and plan, and one between planning and execution. And at each of these stage gates, I want people to come together, revisit what we know about the project, and make a choice. Do we go forward with confidence? Do we go back and fix something? Or do we kill this project before it kills us? The last thing that we want to have happen is to end up down there 5% from the finish line, unable to move forward. You know, those projects I call vampire projects. You wish you could kill them, but you can't. And as long as they're alive, they're sucking the life out of everybody on the project team. But enough for the vampire projects. Let's see what questions we must ask and answer in each of these initiation stages. For example, first and foremost, we need to know the goal. A tight, bright, laser-like goal. This will help you make decisions. It will help you rally people's thinking. It will help you get your team focused. Remember, clarity of purpose really does come from the goal. Secondly, I want you to ask, how are we going to get there? So if the goal is the what, the objectives are the how. And there's always more than one way of resolving a problem, of resolving an initiative. So make sure that you think through in a creative fashion all the different ways that you can achieve that goal. And pick the ones that make the most sense to you, okay? Now, the third question I want you to ask and answer are, who are your stakeholders? Because once you know the objectives, then you know who will impact the project and who will be impacted by the project. And as we will see or have seen later, project problems are pretty predictable. Communication issues are pretty predictable, depending on the stakeholders. The fourth key question I want you to ask and answer is assumptions. I believe that the more we assume, the greater risk we are carrying. Now, don't get me wrong, all projects have assumptions. All projects have some risk. However, let's make sure that we know what our risks are. So always ask the question with your team, what are we assuming? The fifth key question is, of course, the triple constraints and balancing the triple constraints, as we have covered in earlier chapters. So make sure that you know how good, how fast, and how cheap what you're really working with. It really is not an overly optimistic project that you're working with. And make sure there's some flexibility in those triple constraints. At this point in time, we can then seek commitment. Am I going to be committed to this project? Will my stakeholders be committed to this project? And of all the others, you can have everything else, but if you don't have commitment, all is lost. So make sure you've got all 6 of these items. Then we gather our team together and we ask the stage gate question. Should we proceed with what we know into planning and model this and see if it really is possible? Or should we go back and fix something before we move forward? And of course, the third option is, let's get this project out of our way before it sucks the life out of our team and out of our other projects as well. Let's move on to the planning phase. Now, we cover this in detail in the book, but let me just give you the quick thumbnail breeze. First and foremost in planning, we want to make sure we understand the tasks. Secondly, we can then get an idea of how long those tasks will take, the durations. And from tasks and durations, while we're thinking about this and playing that movie in our brain, then we will get a picture about the workflow and what happens first, what happens second, what can run concurrently. So we get a pretty good understanding of the work, a real good understanding. Now, the fourth quick question I want to ask, I want to be able to answer, are what the roles and responsibilities are. I believe in single point responsibility in all my project plans. I want one task, one person. Now, it may take 10 people to do that task, but I want one person in charge of that task because I want single point responsibility. That improves communication and it improves performance. The next key question I have are, what are my milestones? So in every complex project in particular, there will be key milestones. They're like the handles of success. So you can ask, how are we doing? And people will say something more than, okay. They'll be able to say, well, design has been completed, or manufacturing has been started, distribution proceeds. There'll be a good identifiable point that we can communicate in our cross-functional environment with clarity how the project is progressing. That is, performance to date. The last key question before we embark on execution is, how do we publish this plan? Now, in a small plan, we can publish that thing on a to-do list in our own calendar, our daytimer system. We could publish it with sticky notes on our whiteboard. In a larger project with a core team environment, you might want to publish that plan on the wall where everyone will see it every day, or some electronic cloud-based method. So publishing the plan is an important concept. You see, a plan is not a plan until it's published. And it links back to our commitment. So we have commitment to the published plan as well. Well, that's the success system in short order. Remember the key concepts here, that the early questions are the most important questions. Always take time to initiate, go through your stage gates, plan, go through your stage gates, and then execute that project. And if you do, your projects won't stall out late stage. Your projects will pick up speed, as they should, and cross the finish line in good order.